The day the sky changed, no one understood what they were looking at. It started as a shadow. At first, people thought it was a storm. Dark clouds rolled in too fast, too smooth. But the weather reports showed nothing. No rain, no wind, no warning. Then the shape became clear. It was not a cloud. It was a ship. A massive black ship hung in the sky, silent and still, blocking the sunlight over New York City. Within seconds, more ships appeared. One above London, one above Tokyo, one above Dubai, one above every major city on Earth. People stopped walking. Cars slowed down. Some drivers stepped out, staring upward with wide eyes. Others grabbed their phones and started recording. "What is that?" someone whispered. No one had an answer. Within minutes, every news channel went live. Cameras pointed at the sky from every corner of the world. The same image appeared everywhere. Giant ships, dark and endless, stretching across the horizon. Inside homes, families gathered around their screens. In offices, work stopped. In schools, students pressed their faces against the windows. Fear began to spread. Governments tried to respond. Military jets were sent into the sky, flying toward the ships. But as they got closer, something strange happened. Their systems shut down. One by one, the jets lost power. Pilots struggled to control them as they turned back, forced a retreat. The message was clear. These ships were far beyond anything humans had ever built. High above Earth, inside the largest ship, the Galactic Empire watched. The command hall was huge, filled with tall figures wearing heavy armor. Their skin was blue-gray, their eyes cold and sharp. At the center stood their leader, a warlord known across the galaxy for crushing entire worlds. He looked down at Earth through a glowing screen. "Primitive," he said in a low voice. Around him, officers studied the data. Population size, technology level, defense systems. Everything matched the same pattern they had seen many times before. A young, weak species, easy to control. "Prepare the announcement," the warlord ordered. A signal was sent. In a single moment, every screen on Earth changed. Phones, TVs, billboards, computers. The same image appeared everywhere. The face of the alien leader. People gasped. Some stepped back. Others froze, unable to move. The alien's voice followed. Deep, slow, powerful. "People of Earth," it said, "you are now under control of the Galactic Empire." The words echoed across the planet. In cities, streets fell silent. In homes, no one spoke. Even the wind seemed to stop. The alien continued. "You will lower your defenses. You will accept our rule. Resistance will lead to your destruction." A pause. "Submit, and you will be allowed to exist." The message ended. For a moment, nothing happened. The world held its breath. Leaders looked at each other in shock. Military commanders waited for orders. Scientists stared at their screens, tried to understand what they had just seen. This was first contact, and it was not peaceful. Minutes passed. The Empire waited. They had done this before, many times. The result was always the same. Fear, panic, surrender. But something felt different. Back on Earth, the silence began to crack. In one small street, a man lowered his phone and frowned. "Did he just say submit?" he asked. Another man beside him let out a small chuckle. "Yeah," he said, "I think he did." The first man shook his head. "That's it? That's their big speech." The second man laughed. At first, it was quiet, just a small laugh, but it didn't stop. It grew louder. Nearby, someone else heard it and smiled. Then they laughed too. Across the street, a group of teenagers watched the recording again. One of them copied the alien's deep voice in a mocking tone. "Submit or be destroyed," he said, trying to sound serious. The group burst into laughter. In another city, a woman looked at the screen and raised an eyebrow. "That's supposed to scare us," she said. Her brother laughed from the couch. "I've seen scarier movie trailers." Online, clips of the message spread fast. But instead of fear, people added jokes. Memes appeared within minutes. Videos, edits, parodies. The alien speech was turned into something else. Something funny. Back inside the Empire ship, the officers watched a reaction in silence. "This is unusual," one of them said. The warlord narrowed his eyes. "Explain." "They are not showing signs of fear," the officer replied. "No mass panic. No surrender signals." The warlord stepped closer to the screen. Below him, millions of humans were reacting, but not in the way he expected. A crowd in one city was laughing together, pointing at the sky. In another place, people were replaying the message and making jokes. Even the news channels looked confused. Some reporters tried to stay serious, but others struggled not to smile. "This is not possible," another officer said. "Every species fears us." The warlord remained silent. Then he saw something that made him pause. A live broadcast from Earth. A group of people standing in front of a camera. One of them looked directly into the lens and said, "Is this real, or is this some kind of joke?" The people around him started laughing again. Not nervous laughter, not fear, real laughter, the kind that came from not being impressed. The warlord's expression hardened. For the first time in many years, he felt something unfamiliar. Not anger, not pride, something closer to confusion. "Why are they laughing?" he asked quietly. No one in the room had an answer, and far below on the surface of Earth, the laughter continued to spread. The laughter did not stop. If anything, it grew louder. Across the planet, people were no longer just reacting. They were responding. Social media filled with clips of the alien message, but not with fear. Instead, there were edits, jokes, and funny voiceovers. The deep, serious tone of the alien leader became a trend. "Submit or be destroyed," people repeated, but now in playful voices. In one video, a child copied the alien speech while wearing a blanket like a cape. Millions watched it within minutes. In another, someone added music behind the message, turning it into something that sounded like a movie trailer. People laughed in the comments. Even news anchors struggled to stay serious. "This is a global event," one reporter said, trying to keep a straight face. But the public reaction is not what experts expected. Behind him, someone in the studio let out a quiet laugh. The world was not in panic. The world was entertained. High above Earth, inside the main command ship, the Galactic Empire was watching everything. Every screen showed the same thing. Humans laughing. "This behavior is irrational," one officer said. "They are facing a superior force." Another officer nodded. "Their psychological response is incorrect." The warlord stood still, his eyes locked on the data. "Or," he said slowly, "we are missing something." The room went quiet. The Empire had studied thousands of species. They knew how fear worked. They knew how weaker civilizations reacted. But this was new. "Run a deeper scan," the warlord ordered. "Check their weapons, their defenses, everything." The officers moved quickly. Data streams filled the air. Numbers, signals, hidden frequencies. At the same time, the Empire decided to act. "If they do not understand fear," one general said, "we will show it to them." The warlord gave a small nod. A command was sent. One of the smaller ships moved away from the main fleet. It turned toward the ocean, far from major cities. On Earth, people noticed immediately. "Hey, one of the ships is moving," someone said, pointing at the sky. Cameras turned. Live streams followed. The ship hovered over the water, silent for a moment. Then a bright light formed beneath it. A beam shot down. The ocean exploded. Water rose into the sky like a giant wall. The shock waves spread across the surface, pushing waves in every direction. Ships nearby rocked violently. The sky filled with steam and light. It was a clear display of power. A warning. Back inside the Empire ship, the officers watched closely. "This will correct their behavior," one of them said. "Now they will understand." Another added. On Earth, the explosion was seen everywhere. People stared at their screens. For a moment, there was silence. Then someone spoke. "That's it." A man sitting in front of his computer leaned back. "I mean, it looks cool," he said, "but I've seen bigger explosions in movies." His friend laughed from across the room. "Yeah, where's the rest of it?" Online, the clip spread instantly. But again, the reaction was not fear. People added sound effects. Some compared it to fireworks. Others slowed the video down and added dramatic music for fun. One comment got millions of likes. Nice try. Now show us the real power. Back in the command hall, the Empire officers were no longer calm. This is not normal, one of them said sharply. They should be in chaos. They should be begging for mercy, another added. But the data showed the opposite. No global panic. No surrender signals. Just more laughter. The warlord stepped forward, his expression dark. Focus on their military, he said. Surely their leaders understand the threat. The screens changed. Military bases around the world appeared. Armies were active. Jets were ready. Ships were moving. But something was strange. They were not rushing in fear. They were not attacking. They were waiting. Calm. Controlled. Almost like they had seen this before. That is impossible, an officer whispered. The warlord said nothing. He was watching a different screen now. A live broadcast from Earth. A group of scientists stood in front of the camera. One of them adjusted his glasses and looked directly at the screen. If those aliens think that was impressive, the scientist said calmly, then they don't know who they're dealing with. Someone behind him chuckled. The warlord's eyes narrowed. This was no longer just confusion. This was a problem. He turned to his generals. Prepare a direct response, he said. What kind of response? One asked. The warlord paused for a moment. Then he said something no one expected. Send them a question. The officers looked at each other. A question? One repeated. Yes, the warlord said. I want to understand. A signal was prepared. Moments later, every screen on Earth changed again. The alien leader appeared once more. But this time, his voice was different. Not louder, not more threatening, just more focused. Humans of Earth, he said, explain your reaction. Across the planet, people watched. Some were still smiling. Some crossed their arms. Some leaned closer to their screens. The alien continued. You are facing a force that has conquered entire galaxies. Your survival is not guaranteed. A short pause, yet you laugh. Another pause. Why? For a moment, the world was quiet again, not from fear, but from curiosity. And somewhere on Earth, someone was about to answer, and that answer was going to change everything. For a few seconds, the entire world went quiet. The alien question echoed everywhere. Why do you laugh? People looked at each other. Some smiled. Some shook their heads. Others leaned closer to their screens, waiting to see who would answer. Then, a signal was sent from Earth, not from a government office, not from a military base, but from a simple broadcast station. The Empire allowed it through. On their massive screen, a human appeared. He was not wearing armor, not a uniform, just a plain shirt. He looked calm, almost relaxed, like this was just another normal day. He looked directly at the camera. Then he spoke. You really want to know? He said. His voice was steady, clear. Inside the Empire command hall, every officer focused on him. The warlord stepped closer. Yes, the alien leader replied. Explain your behavior. The human nodded slightly. All right, he said. I'll keep it simple. He paused for a moment, like he was choosing the right words. Then he said something no one expected. We thought you were joking. Silence. Across Earth, people smiled. Inside the Empire ship, no one moved. The human continued. You show up with big ships, dark sky, scary voice, and then you give that speech? He tilted his head slightly. Submit or be destroyed, really? A few people behind the camera laughed quietly. The human did not stop. We've heard that line before. A lot. Movies, games, old stories. It's not new to us. The alien officers exchanged confused looks. Are they comparing us to fiction? One whispered. The warlord did not respond. He kept watching. The human leaned a little closer to the camera. You want to scare us? He said. You need to try harder. A small smile appeared on his face. Because right now you just look outdated. That word hit the room like a shock. Outdated. No one had ever called the Galactic Empire that before. The human raised a hand and pointed upward toward the ships in the sky. You think those ships are impressive? He said. They are big, yes, but big doesn't mean better. He took a breath. Let me explain something about humans. The Empire listened carefully now. When we see something new, the human said, we don't just fear it. We study it. We test it. We imagine it. Images began to appear on the broadcast behind him. Old human inventions. Planes. Rockets. Satellites. Then more advanced designs. Strange shapes. Unknown technology. The alien officers leaned forward. What is this? One asked. The human continued. We have been thinking about space for a long time, he said. Long before you arrived. The images changed again. Concept ships. Weapon ideas. Future designs. Some of them looked familiar. Too familiar. The warlord's eyes narrowed. These designs, he said quietly, they match our own systems. The human nodded, as if he could hear him. Of course they do, he said. We imagined things like you a long time ago. A heavy silence filled the Empire command hall. The human smiled slightly. You are not the first big empire we've thought about, he added. On Earth, people were watching closely now. The laughter had slowed, but it had not disappeared. It had changed. Now it felt more confident, more controlled. The human straightened his posture. You came here expecting fear, he said. You expected us to panic, to beg, to surrender. He shook his head. But you don't understand humans. He paused. We laugh when something is not impressive. Another pause. And right now, you're not impressive. Inside the Empire ship, tension filled the air. Some officers looked angry. Others looked uncertain. The warlord finally spoke. You are a primitive species, he said. Your technology is limited. Your defenses are weak. The human listened carefully. Then he nodded once. That's what you think, he said. He turned slightly, and the camera zoomed out. Behind him, more people stepped into view. Scientists, engineers, military officers. All calm, all watching. We don't show everything we have, the human said. A low murmur spread through the Empire command hall. What does he mean? One officer asked. The human looked back at the camera. You scanned our surface, he said. You saw our cities, our planes, our weapons. He gave a small shrug. That's just what we let you see. The warlord's expression changed slightly. Impossible, he said. Our scans are absolute. The human smiled again. That's what makes this funny, he said. A short silence followed. Then he spoke again, slower this time. You think you're the strongest force in the galaxy. Another pause. You think no one can surprise you. He leaned closer. That's why we laugh. The room inside the Empire ship felt colder now. No one spoke. The human took one final breath. If you really want to understand us, he said, then don't look at what we show. He pointed upward again. Look at what we hide. The screen went black. The connection ended. For a moment, nothing moved. Then alarms suddenly started ringing inside the Empire ship. Bright lights flashed. Unknown signals detected. An officer shouted. Energy readings increasing across the planet. Multiple hidden structures activating. The warlord turned sharply. Show me, he ordered. The screens lit up again. This time, they were not showing cities. They were showing something else. Deep under the oceans. Far below the ground. High above the atmosphere. Massive objects powering on. The warlord stared in silence. And for the first time since arriving at Earth, the laughter was gone. Now, something else had taken its place. Uncertainty, and the feeling that they had made a very serious mistake. The alarms did not stop. Inside the Empire command ship, red lights flashed across every wall. Officers rushed between stations, shouting numbers, readings, warnings. Energy levels rising across multiple locations. Unknown structures confirmed beneath oceans. Object detected beyond lunar orbit, moving fast. The warlord stood still at the center of the chaos, his eyes fixed on the main screen. Stabilize the data, he ordered. I want clarity. The screens adjusted. Now the images were sharper, deeper, clearer. What they showed made the entire room go silent. Far below Earth's oceans, something massive was waking up. Huge shapes. hidden under layers of water, began to move. Long structures unfolded slowly, like giants stretching after a long sleep. "These are not natural," one officer said. Another voice followed, shaking slightly. "They are machines." Across the planet, similar readings appeared. Under mountains, deep underground, enormous doors were opening. Inside them were structures made of dark metal, glowing faintly with blue light. Hidden bases, secret facilities. The Empire had not detected them before. "How did we miss this?" an officer asked. "Our scans were blocked," another replied, "or redirected." High above Earth, beyond the moon, something even more alarming appeared. Ships, not small ones, not weak ones. Human ships. They'd been hiding in deep space, silent and invisible. Now, one by one, they powered on. Their shapes were smooth, sharp, and far more advanced than anything the Empire had expected from a primitive world. The warlord stepped closer to the screen. "Count them," he said. The system processed quickly. Numbers increasing, 10, 20, 50. The officer paused. Over 200 confirmed. A heavy silence filled the room. That was not possible. No young species could build a fleet like that. Not in secret. Not without being noticed. The warlord's voice dropped lower. "Show me their power output." The readings appeared. For a moment, no one spoke. Then one officer whispered, "That exceeds our frontline warships." Another officer shook his head. "That's not possible. Our ships are designed for conquest." But the numbers did not change. Human ships were stronger. Back on Earth, people were watching everything unfold. This time, there was no loud laughter, but there were smiles, calm faces, quiet confidence. In one city, a group of people stood on a rooftop, looking up at the sky. "So, they finally saw it," one of them said. Another nodded. "Took them long enough." On screens across the world, a new message appeared. Not from the Empire. From Earth. The same human from before returned. He looked just as calm, just as relaxed. But this time, there was something different in his eyes. Something serious. "You want to know why we laughed?" he said. The Empire command hall went quiet again. Every alien watched him closely. The human continued. "This is why." Behind him, the camera showed a live view of the hidden structures. Ships rising from the ocean. Massive platforms lifting from underground. Energy systems glowing brighter with each second. "We don't show our full strength right away," the human said. "We wait. We watch." He folded his arms. "We learn." The warlord finally spoke. "You deceived us," he said. The human shook his head. "No," he replied. "You made an assumption." That answer hit harder than any weapon. The warlord's grip tightened. "You allowed us to believe you were weak." The human gave a small nod. "Yes." Silence. Then the human added, "That was your first mistake." The officers shifted uncomfortably. The warlord's voice became sharper. "And your second?" The human looked directly into the camera. "You came here without understanding who we are." A pause. "Or what we are capable of." Behind him, more human ships appeared on the screen. They moved into position with perfect control, surrounding the Empire fleet from a distance. Not attacking, just waiting. The message was clear. The Empire was no longer in control. Inside the command hall, tension reached its peak. "We are surrounded," an officer said quietly. "Defensive positions?" another asked. "Not yet," a third replied. "They are holding position." The warlord watched the human ships carefully. They were silent. No aggressive movement. No warnings. That was more unsettling than an attack. "Why are they not firing?" one officer asked. The warlord answered slowly. "Because they do not need to." Back on Earth, the human speaker took a step closer to the camera. "We didn't attack you," he said, "even after your threat." He paused. "We didn't panic. We didn't run." Another pause. "We laugh." He let that word sit for a moment. "Because from our point of view," he continued, "you walked into a situation you didn't understand and tried to act powerful." A faint smile appeared again. That's always funny. Inside the Empire ship, no one laughed. The human's expression became serious once more. "But this part isn't funny anymore," he said. The room grew still. "You fired on our planet," he continued. "You made a threat." His voice lowered slightly. "So now we respond." At that exact moment, every human ship powered up. Energy surged across their systems. Weapons activated, not fired, but ready. The Empire's sensors reacted instantly. Massive energy buildup detected. "They are targeting us." Shields at maximum. Panic began to spread. The same panic the Empire had expected from humans was now inside their own ranks. The warlord raised his hand. "Hold positions," he ordered. "No one fires." The officers froze. But one started. "That is an order," the warlord said firmly. Silence returned. The human watched this through the screen. Then he nodded once. "Good," he said. He took a breath. "You have one choice now." The Empire listened carefully. "Leave," the human said. A long pause followed. "Or stay and find out why we stopped laughing." The screen went dark again. No more words. No more signals. Just silence. Inside the Empire command hall, every officer waited. No one spoke. No one moved. The warlord looked at the human fleet surrounding them. Then he looked at the data. Then at his officers. For the first time in many years, he did not see victory. He saw risk. And far below on Earth, the laughter had completely disappeared. Now, there was only one question left. What would the Empire do next? No one in the Empire command hall spoke. The silence was heavy. All eyes were on the warlord. For years, for generations, the Empire had only known one path: advance, conquer, control. There was never a need to hesitate, never a need to question. But this time was different. The screen showed the same image again and again. Human ships, hundreds of them, positioned perfectly. Not aggressive, but ready. The warlord slowly walked toward the center display. His armored steps echoed across the hall. "Status," he said quietly. An officer answered, his voice no longer steady. "All human ships are locked onto our fleet. Their weapons are charged, but not firing." Another officer added, "Our shields are active, but simulations show low survival probability if they attack." That statement froze the room. Low survival probability. No one had ever said that about the Empire before. The warlord looked at the numbers himself. The data was clear. If a battle started now, the Empire would lose. Not just struggle. Lose. He turned his head slightly. "And our reinforcements?" he asked. "Too far," an officer replied. "Even at maximum speed, they will not reach us in time." Another pause. The warlord understood the situation fully now. For the first time in his long career, he was not the strongest force in the room. Across the screen, the human fleet remained still, waiting, not rushing, not panicking. That calmness made it worse. "They are confident," one officer whispered. The warlord nodded slightly. "Yes," he said, "they are." On Earth, the same quiet tension filled the air. People watched from homes, streets, offices. No jokes now, no laughter, just focus. In one control room, human leaders stood together, studying the situation. "Do you think they will attack?" one asked. Another shook his head. "They won't," he said. "Not now." "Why?" "Because they finally understand." Back in space, the Empire command hall remained frozen in decision. One of the younger officers stepped forward. "We cannot retreat," he said. "We are the Galactic Empire. If we leave, our image—" "Enough," the warlord said sharply. The officer stopped. The warlord turned toward him slowly. "Image does not matter if we are destroyed," he said. The words were simple, but they carried weight. Another officer spoke more carefully. "If we retreat, we preserve our fleet," he said. "We can return later with full force." The warlord did not answer immediately. He looked back at the human ships again. They had not moved, not even a little. No chasing, no pressure, just control. "They are giving us a choice," the warlord said. "Yes," the officer replied. "And they are confident we will choose correctly." That was the most unsettling part. The humans were not forcing anything. They already knew the outcome. The warlord took a deep breath. Then he gave the order, prepare withdrawal. The room froze for a second. Then activity exploded. Withdrawal protocol initiated. Fleet alignment in progress. Engines charging for jump. On Earth, the change was noticed immediately. They're moving, someone said. The massive alien ships began to shift, slowly at first, then more clearly. They were pulling back, across the planet. People watched closely. Are they leaving? A woman asked. No one answered right away. Then, one by one, the Empire's ships began to disappear. They did not fire. They did not threaten. They simply turned away and jumped into deep space. Gone. Just like that. The sky became clear again. Sunlight returned to the cities. For a few seconds, no one reacted. It felt unreal. Then someone let out a breath. They actually left, he said. Another person smiled. Told you. The tension broke. But the laughter did not come back the same way as before. This time, it was quieter, more controlled, more proud. High above Earth, the human fleet remained in position for a moment longer, making sure, watching. Then slowly they powered down. Ships returned to hidden locations. Ocean structures sank back into the depths. Underground bases closed once more. Everything disappeared, as if it had never been there. On the surface, life began to return to normal. Cars moved again. People walked again. But no one would forget what had just happened. In a final broadcast, the same human speaker appeared one last time. He looked calm, just like before. The situation is over, he said. He paused briefly. They made the right choice. Behind him, there were no weapons, no ships, just a normal room. We don't look for war, he continued, but we don't run from it either. He gave a small, simple nod. If someone comes here thinking we are weak, a faint smile appeared. They will learn. The screen went black. No dramatic music. No celebration. Just quiet understanding. Far away, deep in space, the Empire fleet regrouped. Inside the command ship, the warlord stood alone, looking at the stars. No one spoke to him. No one dared. He replayed the human words in his mind. You made an assumption. He clenched his hand slightly, then relaxed it. This is not over. One of his officers said carefully from behind him. The warlord did not turn. No, he said. A pause. Then he added something unexpected. But next time, we do not underestimate them. Back on Earth, people looked up at the night sky. It looked normal again. Peaceful. But now, they knew something more. They were not alone. And they were not weak. And somewhere, someone laughed softly again. Not out of fear. Not out of surprise. But because they understood something simple. In a universe full of powerful empires, the most dangerous thing you can meet is a species that is not afraid to laugh at you. Weeks passed. The sky stayed clear. No ships, no shadows, no alien messages. At first, people kept watching the sky every day. Cameras stayed ready. News channels ran full-time coverage. Experts spoke again and again, tried to explain what had happened. But slowly, life returned to normal. Shops reopened. Traffic filled the roads. School started again. Yet something had changed. People talked about it everywhere. The day they came. The day they left. And most of all, the day we laughed. On Earth, the event had a new name. The First Contact. But for many, it felt like something more. A test, and humanity had passed. In hidden places across the planet, activity did not slow down. Deep underground, inside secure facilities, human scientists worked day and night. Screens showed recordings of the alien ships, their energy systems, their weapons, their movement patterns. Everything was being studied. We were right, one scientist said, pointing at a screen. Their core systems are based on predictable energy flow. Another nodded. And slower than ours, she added. A third person looked up. They thought we were behind them. A quiet smile spread across the room. They were wrong. In another location, far beneath the ocean, a massive structure remained active. Unlike before, it did not fully shut down. Human engineers move across large platforms, checking systems, making adjustments. Keep everything at low power, a supervisor said. We stay hidden but ready. Do you think they'll come back? A younger engineer asked. The supervisor paused for a moment. Yes, he said, but not the same way. High above Earth, beyond the moon, a small group of human ships remained on silent watch, invisible, tracking deep space signals. Waiting, inside one of those ships, a commander stood in front of a wide window, looking into the darkness. Any movement? She asked. An officer checked the sensors. Nothing yet, he replied, but we're picking up distant signals. Empire? Unknown but similar patterns. The commander crossed her arms. They're watching us now, she said quietly. Back on Earth, a global meeting was taking place. Leaders from different nations sat together in one secure room. This time, there were no arguments, no tension between countries. The threat had changed everything. We need a unified response, one leader said. We already have one, another replied. We showed it. A third leader leaned forward. But next time might not be the same, he said. We cannot rely on surprise again. Silence followed. Everyone understood. The first encounter had gone well, but it was only the beginning. In another part of the world, the same human speaker who had faced the Empire sat alone in a quiet room. He was watching the stars through a large screen. Someone entered behind him. You handled it well, the newcomer said. The man did not turn. They were easy to read, he replied. A short pause. They expected fear. The newcomer nodded. And next time, the man finally looked back. Next time, he said, they won't make that mistake. Far away, deep in space, the Galactic Empire was not resting. Inside a distant command station, far larger than the ships that had come to Earth, a new meeting was taking place. Different leaders, higher ranks, older, stronger. They stood around a large table, looking at a projection of Earth. This is the species, one of them asked. Yes, another replied. Designation, human. Data appeared around the image. Fleet size, energy output, hidden structures. All confirmed? A third leader asked. Yes. A long silence followed. Then one of them spoke. They forced a retreat. The words were heavy. They exposed our weakness. Another added, they laughed at us. The room grew colder. One of the older leaders leaned forward. That is not acceptable. The others nodded. But rushing back would be another mistake, someone said. They are prepared now. The first leader looked at the data again. Then he said something different. Then we do not rush. The others turned toward him. We learn, he continued. We watch. We adapt. A slow, careful plan began to form. Not a direct attack. Not a quick invasion. Something quieter. Something smarter. Back on Earth, no one knew the details of that meeting. But some people felt it. A strange feeling. Like being watched. Like something had changed in the distance. On a quiet night, a young boy stood outside his home, looking up at the stars. Do you think they'll come back? He asked his father. The man stood beside him, thinking for a moment. Yes, he said. The boy looked a little worried. Are we ready? The father smiled slightly. We were ready before they arrived, he said. He placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. And now we're even more ready. The boy nodded slowly, still looking at the sky. It looked peaceful, calm, but now it felt different. Not empty, full of possibilities, full of danger. And somewhere out there, someone was watching. Back in orbit, the hidden human ships continued their silent patrol. No lights, no signals, just quiet movement, waiting, learning, preparing, because humanity understood something very important. The first encounter was not the end. It was a beginning, and next time, there might not be laughter, or maybe there would be, but it would mean something very different, because now, the entire galaxy had learned one simple truth. Humans do not fear the unknown. They face it, they study it, and if it underestimates them, they laugh, then they get ready for whatever comes next.